Hey guys, it's your guy Bo here, and today we are back with yet another book review. And we are going to be reviewing some books that I've read since I did my last book review. Now, I've read quite a few books, but we're just talking about the Star Wars books, not all of the books. And we have got a very impressive lineup today because we've got 4 books. So yeah, let's just get right into this. So the first book that we're reviewing is The Crystal Star. Now, I might have mentioned this during my review of Supernatural Encounters over the summer, but this is the book in Legends that has Waru in it. And like I said before, after reading Supernatural Encounters, I see Waru in a whole different way. Like, it talks about his home dimension, it talks about how he's wanting to go back, it's referring to other space, because that's where he lives. But I will say, I knew the solo children were going to get kidnapped, but I didn't expect it to happen right away. It happened at the beginning of the book. And I will say there's only, how many chapters? There's only 13 chapters in this book, but they are long as hell. I'm not kidding. Look. Here's where chapter 1 starts. And here's where it ends. Now, that's not much, but chapter 2 starts here and it ends all the way. Well, it starts on page 29, it ends on page 60. Yeah. Chapter 3, 61, ends on page 97. Chapter 4 is 98, page 98. And it ends on page 139. So yeah, I think the chapters get longer as you go, but you get the idea. But anyways, we only see Waru heal, we see him heal once, and we see him attempt to heal once, so we only see him use his powers twice in this book. And he also turns out to have hypnotic abilities, like he can hypnotize people with his offers. And Luke actually is enticed and he almost gets taken to other space with Waru, but it's the efforts of Jaina, Jason, and Anakin Solo, their voices, that call out to him, Leia, and Han and help them get out of Waru because they were swimming through his body. I know that sounds weird, but it sounds a lot more weird than it actually is. But he gets sick while on this planet that Waru was on. Well, actually, no, not a planet, a station. And he's so concerned, he thinks that Waru can heal him, when Waru just wants to use Luke to get back to his home dimension. But really, he initially is going to use Anakin because Hethrir is a Force-sensitive Imperial warlord who has kidnapped the Soul Kids, and he's going to feed Anakin to Waru. But then, when Anakin gets away, he tells Waru to take Luke instead. But then Luke, Leia, and Han get out, because Luke is taken by Waru, and so Leia and Han go inside Waru to save him, and they get out. So Waru just decides to take Hethrir instead. And honestly, Waru's personality, I'm not really sure if you can call him evil or not, because ultimately he just wants to get home, but he's someone who, I don't think he really is evil, but actually, no, hold on. He is evil, because I remember what he did in Supernatural Encounters. After all the stuff he did, he's evil. He's an evil son of a bitch. But yeah, I will say, when Mara went back to his home dimension, it did not happen the way I imagined it. I thought like what was going to happen was like a portal was going to appear above him and he was going to go up through it. But no, what he did was, because he's made of a bunch of golden plates, and like his insides are a red like a red mass or fluid or something that comes through him. Like inside of him is a breathable, large, vast area of light, and like him going home was a black hole at the bottom of him that was slowly rising, and Luke came within a hair's breadth from that black hole, but he got out. But what happened was, after I took Hethrir, the gaps between his plates closed, and he slowly shrunk smaller and smaller and smaller until it seemed about that big, and then he popped out of existence. But yeah, this book, I read it mainly because of the Solo kids, and they showed their talents in the Force in this book. Like they escaped Hethrir, like when he kidnapped them. Well, Jason and Jaina did. Then they went to save Anakin. But yeah, they showed their talents in this. I think this is the only Star Wars book written by Vonda and McIntyre. Anyways, the next two books, we're going to review them together because they are the Hand of Thrawn duology. Now, this took a lot of time to read. Like, it took a long time for me to read. But it's a masterpiece. Zahn did it again. And like I said, with the Thrawn trilogy, I could imagine some things, like visualize some, but not others. But Mara, she and Luke, the rumors circulate that Thrawn has come back from the dead, even though the Empire is on the verge of total collapse, and Pelion wants to sign a treaty with the New Republic to surrender. But a plot comes underway with rumors circulating that Thrawn is back. But like there's a con man named Flim for the most of the book. I thought his name was Film, that was playing him, like dressing up as Thrawn and manipulating events. And there was something that happened on Kamas, and there was a document that had a list of the names of the Bothans. Like there was something that happened to Kamas by Bothans. It rendered Kamas inhabitable, and people were wanting the Bothans to be brought to justice, but they used this as a means to ignite old rivalries, and the New Republic about descended into civil war. And meanwhile, like there were like the rumors of Thrawn circulating around was rallying Imperial forces, and Pelion was hearing about it. He had to go do one thing while another thing. It was just a bunch of chaos, but eventually led to the same place. But Luke and Mara go to the unknown regions, where they find Thrawn's personal base, which looks like a hand reaching out to grab the clouds, hence its name, the Hand of Thrawn. And it's then that that they realize their love for one another, and Luke asks Mara to marry him. But I will say, they never dated. They didn't date before getting engaged. Like it was more like they were feeling some type of way for each other for so long, until finally Luke just asked Mara to marry him. But yeah, this book, Vision of the Future, is a lot longer than Spectre of the Past. And I will say, Mara actually helps Luke with a lot of stuff, because there's mention of Dark Empire in Luke's actions, and how much the past is weighing on Luke, and Mara helps him like shed some of that guilt, like how it wasn't his fault. Luke, you could say, takes on almost a Spider-Man like role, where he thinks he has to help everybody, how he should prevent every death and prevent everything bad from happening, but Mara says he can't, and that Mara talks some sense into him. And while Luke teaches Mara, Mara also learns things of her own, and she ultimately gets closer to her Jedi path, like her Jedi destiny. But yeah, this is the book, I guess towards the end, where Luke asked Mara, "Will you marry me?" And she said, "Yeah." And I will say, when I read that part, I internally screamed so loudly. But I cannot wait to read the Union comics so I can see their wedding happen. But I will say, like, they did find the Kamas like an unaltered copy of the Kamas document. They used it to kind of resolve everything. And meanwhile, the truth behind the plot of Thrawn's alleged return was uncovered. Like, it was revealed that a warlord like had it hired Flim to be the con artist, but it was manipulated by the clone of one of the Palpatine's royal guards named Tierce, and he was implanted with some of Thrawn's genius, and he tried to rally the Empire back, but no, he didn't, because Pelion talked him down. And like, it fooled me. Like, there was a plot twist when I found out Tierce was a clone in here, because the whole time I thought he was just like genius that he had, like this genius that he'd become from serving under the Emperor, because the royal guards were a lot smarter than they looked. But yeah, this was like, I am glad I finally read this. Like, it's like, there was a lot that I learned and I felt for it, because like there were a bunch of clones that had their families and they just wanted to live in peace, and I was like, oh, that's nice. But yeah, while the Empire like is a very small fraction of what it once was, because they lost a lot of what they had in Darksaber. I'm reading that soon. I think I might review that. But yeah, I will say Luke, he comes into this duology off of like reflecting on his past relationships, how one of them, I can't remember her name, died, and the other, Callista Ming, who was a Jedi during the Clone Wars, fun fact, she actually met Ahsoka and Rex in person. But she has a bizarre story. She died, lived as a disembodied spirit, and came back to life in a new body. Or, I think it was a new body, I don't know. But she came back to life. And they fell in love, but she walked away. So Luke didn't have the best of luck with women, because I think he dated about, I think it was 7 women, like including Mara and Lumaya. Like, there were 5 others aside from them. But yeah, he's been around the block more than a few times. Yeah, this was a masterpiece. It's a great duology. Like, Zonreg's good duologies, like Allegiance and Choices of One, they take place a few months apart, but they are a duology, even though there are books that happen between them on the timeline. And the last book that we're reviewing is, you see this book at the very beginning of each Legends timeline, like in every Star Wars book. Like, not kidding, like, yeah, like, you always see it, like, in this timeline, you always see it at the beginning. It is Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void. Now, this book takes place right before the events of Force Storm 2 of the Dawn of the Jedi comics, and I'm gonna admit, I had seen this book in the store a few times, and I didn't want it. Like, because the blurb, like, on the back, didn't really sound interesting. But I decided just to get it so that way I wouldn't have to see it anymore, like, on the shelf, and just so I could cross it off as having read it. And this book actually gets a lot of hate. Like, there's a lot of people who talk bad about it. They say it's boring. I will say in the beginning it's not really that interesting, but it picks up, and I found it wasn't that bad, actually. Because it goes over the story of Lannery Brock, a Jedi Ranger, because back then, when they were on Titan, it was known as the Jedi Order, not the Jedi Order. And she was the daughter of 2 Jedi, like, they were both Force sensitive, but her brother wasn't a Force sensitive. And he gradually grew, like, more insane, but eventually left, and he wanted to, because the Jedi came from all over the galaxy in the Tho-Yor, which was the Tho-Yor Arrival. That's the event it was called. But this takes place over 10,000 years after that arrival. And yeah, he wanted to go and explore, see what was happening, but keep in mind, back then, there was no hyperspace technology. That only all belonged to the Rakata, but they were coming. And he was going to use a means to, like, travel through the galaxy, supposedly, but it might not have worked, but if it failed, it would have killed everybody. And Monry was on his tail. She had to stop him, and they fought in the end, and she ended up killing him. And I will say, I found this reminiscent of Legacy of the Force Invincible in a few ways. Because think about it. You've got two siblings, a brother and a sister, and the brother starts getting very contemplative, very thinking about a lot of stuff that he probably shouldn't be thinking about, and he starts to grow more distant, and eventually he turns down the path of darkness to try and achieve his goals, and he fights his sister, and his sister kills him. That's pretty much what happened in Legacy of the Force, because during the Yuuzhan Vong War, Jacen Solo became more withdrawn from his family, and after the war, he went on a 5-year odyssey around the galaxy, learning about different Force techniques, and he saw a vision of who was going to be his daughter Alana as a Sith, alongside Darth Krayt, who was sitting on the throne of balance. It's not a real throne; it's a concept. But he didn't realize. He saw the future, and it changed him. But he didn't really start figuring things out until Legacy of the Force. And he searched for other ways, but the only way to prevent that future was if he turned to the dark side, and he did. And when he finally did, Jaina ended up striking him down and killing him. But unlike Jacen, Dalian. For a long time, I thought his name was pronounced Dal. It's Dal. But Dal, he was curious like Jacen, but ultimately he became insane. So he died a madman, not a martyr. But this book, I will say, it wasn't the best thing I've read, but it was definitely interesting. I could visualize a lot more here than I could in the Hand of Thrawn duology. I'm glad I read it, finally. It was a lot better than I thought. And it's really flimsy. Just wiggle, it's so flimsy. But yeah, it's not long. It's only about the length of Death Troopers, but it took me longer than 2 days to read it. And I'd give this a B if I had to give it a grade. For the Crystal Star, I'd give it a B too. But for the Hand of Thrawn duology, A. And I still have 3 more Star Wars books to read before I put the novels on the back burner to read the comics. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the Mara Jade by the Emperor's Hand comics, the Dark Empire comics, and then the Union comics. That's where Luke and Mara's wedding takes place. And I'm going to read those before I start reading the books. Because the books after talk about the comics. The Union comics. That's why I'm not. Because Survivor's Quest, that'll be the first book of Luke and Mara after their marriage, their wedding. And I want to see the events of the wedding first. But yeah, that's all that I have for this video. I went through a lot with these books. I really liked them. And I'm glad I got to tell you guys about them. Because I will say, if you guys are some of those people who don't like Dawn of the Jedi, I will say, just keep going. Keep reading it. Read to at least chapter 10. And see if you're interested. Because if you're not, then you can put it away. But if you are interested by then, keep reading. Because there's a lot of things from other books in here. They're the Sith pureblood species. They are involved. As well as the Nogri. There were all kinds of species there. All kinds of stuff you'll see. But yeah, that's all I have for today. I'm glad I got to share these with you. And I'm I probably will be reviewing, since I've done 3 books, 4 books I've reviewed with you today. When I do my next book review, I'll have read 3 more, and I might review all of them. But I don't know yet. I might review them one at a time, though. I think I will. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.